Yes, our next question will come from the line of David Rosenfeld with LA Daily News.
Hi, how are you? Thank you. I was wondering real quickly, the numbers over the last few days, the number of new cases has come down slightly. I wonder if that should be any indication that the curve is flattening, or if there's anything else that you can offer that would explain that. Perhaps are there less tests happening over the weekend?
Yes, exactly. So you hit it. Yes, there are less tests happening over the weekend. So we'll look to tomorrow and Wednesday's numbers, and that will be a much better indication. We actually had very high numbers on Saturday, so I don't see that our numbers are necessarily dropping already. I would anticipate, as I noted earlier, that we're going to see a lot more cases this week and next. But thanks for the hopeful note there. But it is really an issue around lab testing. We'll take our next question, which is our last question.
Okay, our last question will come from the line of Dave Lopez with Channel 9 News. Please go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. My question was asked previously about the number of the drop, doctor, but back to the modeling that you said you were working on. Is there any indication, and again, I know we're looking into the crystal ball, and I feel like a parrot asking it over and over again, but does your model show you when this real heavy apex will hit in the LA area?
So Dr. Galley has been working with a team from DHS, a team from DPH, and some folks at UCLA on some modeling strategies that we can use to predict what might happen in the future here in LA County. And I believe I'm going to just ask her to speak about sort of when we're going to be able to release that information so that you'll all have access to that modeling data as well.
Hi, so we're working on this model that's been mentioned, and we hope to have data that's able to be released by the end of this week. I think it's important to keep in context what the model can and can't do. So what the model will never be able to do is exactly predict a peak. It will paint through a range of potential scenarios, a band in which we might anticipate that there would be a peak, but then that model is continually updated with the data from the previous day on testing, hospitalization rates, so that we can determine which point on the curve and which of those scenarios we are closest to. And then the actions that people take on a given day obviously have an impact on what that model shows in the weeks to come. So if people get tired of social distancing or physical distancing, or they see the bed numbers that are still really open and available and they think, oh, this isn't concerning, or they see potentially case numbers come down, as was just mentioned, even if there's various reasons for that, and they think, I don't need to stay home, that will have an impact on the model results that we'll see 2 weeks from now and push us up on a curve, again, that has a slope up to increasing impact on bed demand, ICU rates, and ventilator rates. It's also important to keep in mind that really the goal of those physical distancing measures and the goal of all of the public health efforts in general is to not just lower the peak, but also spread out the peak. So in a classic epidemiologic model like this, you'll have a very sharp spike where you have the peak, all of the bed demand is in a very narrow range. One day you're very full, the next day it starts to go down. The goal of the efforts that have been put into place by public health entities are really focused at lowering that overall curve and critically spreading out the curve so that you don't have a single point in time peak, but what you have is bed demand spread out over weeks that would remain kind of broad and flat for a period of time and then proceed to decline. This concludes our press conference. Thank you, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, it does conclude your conference for today. Thank you for your participation and for using AT&T conferencing service. You may now disconnect.